Are you tired of self-doubt holding you back? Have you ever wished you could have the confidence to face your fears, go after your wildest dreams, and the tools necessary to live your best life? Hey there, amazing listeners. I'm your host and author of How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power. And I've made it my mission to help you break free from self-doubt and embrace confidence. Subscribe now and join us as we unlock the secrets to unshakable self-assurance. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing my friend and colleague Dan Simon. Dan is a transformational coach, consultant, speaker, and former educational leader with over 30 years of experience. Dan has dedicated his life to helping individuals and organizations break through limitations and achieve lasting success. As a former high school principal and superintendent, Dan's leadership helped High Technology High School earn the #1 U.S. high school ranking in the U.S. and World Report. His coaching is rooted in faith-based leadership, personal growth, and mindset transformation, empowering others to step into their full potential. I love that. As a dedicated husband and father of 6 and grandfather, Dan's journey of overcoming self-doubt and embracing confidence fuels his passion for guiding others. In this episode, we will explore authentic leadership, breaking limiting beliefs, and unlocking human potential. Dan's wisdom will inspire you to lead with confidence, faith, and purpose. Dan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, that was a heck of an introduction, Tara. Thank you so much. What a pleasure and an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really honored to have you on the show today. So just for everyone's, background and reference, Dan and I know each other in real life, right? We didn't just meet on the podcast. We know each other in real life.
Yeah.
You are the chapter president for the Raleigh-Durham chapter for C-Suite for Christ, which I am a leadership member in that group as well. And you know what? I've really enjoyed getting to know you. As a person, as a friend, as a mentor, the first time we ever met in person was the very first meeting for our chapter, and you gave the speech, the keynote speech. I was hooked.
No.
I was hooked.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you have been a gift to me and to our chapter as well, Tara. Not just for your faith-based confidence that you give to everybody that you work with, but your knowledge in the field as well. You have really helped me with some consulting on book and TEDx and all the other things that you do as well. So I'm grateful for your friendship. I know this is just the beginning, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to, be around other people who share the same values, who support each other. And more important than that, too, just, it's iron sharpens iron. I feel, when I hang around our group, just sharper, ready, more prepared, right? Because there's so many challenges in life, and, confidence is a mutual topic that we're both interested in. I think everybody on some certain level has had to overcome some type of confidence issue, right?
Oh, sure.
It's one of those things that not a lot of people talk about, but so many of us go through. And it's really hard to navigate by yourself. And that's another reason why I really enjoy our group specifically is, again, it's that iron sharpening iron. And it's just so uplifting and encouraging. So I just wanted to mention that. But, you're doing all of these amazing things, right? You're speaking, you're, the president of our chapter, you're consulting, you're coaching, you're writing a book. You have 6 kids. We're you find the time to do all this, Dan?
I think I've been one of those people who, in fact, recently there's been a lot of uh, articles popping up in my feed about the myth of work-life balance, right? Um, I've always been, I guess I say I've always thrived on having many priorities and creating time to prioritize each of them in context. So I truly believe you have to be able to do whatever you do well without the mindset that, well, if I put 3 hours of this into this, I've put 3 hours into this. It just doesn't work. So I've learned, I mean, I've been married to my amazing wife for 30, it'll be 33 years this, I hope I get that right, 32 years this summer. We've been together 33 years. Um, she's just been such a great partner. So as I've done my master's, as I've multiple masters, almost finished a doctorate, progressed my way up into district leadership roles, opened a charter school. I've always had that balance of having a partner at home that where we have prioritized family and raising our family a certain way together. We actually we marvel in many ways, Tara, at the fact that we were. It may sound funny to say, but we're almost always on the same page. Our kids could never kind of play us off each other because we were always on the same page. And now that we have 6 grown children, 7 grandchildren, we're in this place where our connection is even more important than ever before. And so I think for me, I have certainly learned is that every relationship in your life, the ones that that are closest to you, as well as the ones that almost seem insignificant, every one of them matters. And I've always been a connector. I've always been a culture builder. I've always been someone who is other-centered. But I tell you, as you go through life and you get more and more experience, you recognize as you see the struggles that other people have who don't value that as much to be successful. And when I say successful, it doesn't mean that they're not making a lot of money and that they're not holding some kind of title. But where is the satisfaction in the work, right? And where is the fulfillment in the work? And so that for me is everything that I'm doing now that you mentioned, plus working with adolescent kids is still my jam. It's just what I do. I've focused now in Christian education as well as military families. That's become very, very personal for me. I spent time teaching classes in the Second Chance Initiative in the correctional centers. Like everything that I'm doing now and with my wife right at my side is doing things that are still other-centered and still transition-oriented to help people just get closer to God. And in the process of doing that, to find their purpose. And then in that, there's fulfillment. And maybe you make a lot of money doing it, and maybe you don't. But when you feel fulfilled, it doesn't matter.
I love that on so many levels. I had a really interesting conversation about a year ago with a former client of mine. And, we were talking about success and what success meant like for him. And, he lives in this posh area of London, right? And he started talking about success and comparing himself to everyone he was meeting and everyone that lived near him. And he said, my neighbors have this type of special designer marble and that. And he was looking at himself as if he wasn't successful because he was comparing himself to others. And I said, how's his home life? Well, his wife and him fight all of the time. They're not on the same page, right? And I said, you know what? You're a richer man.
That's right. That's right.
Because wouldn't he drop all of that glitz and glam and, things that really don't matter for a supportive home life?
Right on.
And you can't say no to that, right? There's something about a peace of mind that I think a lot of people don't put necessarily a tag on or label it, because, so much of our lives we're told to, go after a certain version of success. And it's always a version of success of what that looks like for others. So I would love to hear from you, because you have pivoted in your career and you've done, certain really amazing things. And it looks like you are definitely following your North Star, your compass, and what that version of success means to you. So I would like to hear a little bit of your background, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I think what you're talking about as well is it's the definition of what faith in God is, right? I mean, he's the only one that can fill that hole in our hearts of, wanting to have people, you know, um, step, um, let me say it this way, uh, always seeking satisfaction in something and never really being able to find it, right? We're always looking for the next thing, or we're always looking for the bigger thing. And only God can fill that true satisfaction to know that he is enough, right? And what enough looks like is very different for different people. Again, it's not necessarily about a title. It might be. It's not about wealth. It might be, but it also is individual to every single individual. God's created us with different talents and with different passions. And this is what I teach with my adolescents when we go through vocation, college, and career discussions. College isn't the only path. God may have given you a gift to work with your hands, to serve, whatever it may be, and to identify that, to come to terms with that, and to be satisfied with that means you're going to find fulfillment in whatever it is that you're doing, regardless of the paycheck. God will provide what you need, right? Not what you want, what you need. And then when you, again, come to terms with that and are satisfied with that, all the other boundaries, all the other barriers break down, and you can just be free to be and do what God's called you to do. And in my background, there are several stories. We just, we don't have time for all of them, but I've recently shared, Tara, with someone that I think I shared it with our group, actually. I haven't had anxiety, really, I would say, in probably 5, 6 years about what's next, about, what might happen in my life, in the life of my family. And it was when I finally came to the realization, after a number of pivots in my life, as you described, where I wasn't sure if this was the right move. I recognized that in those moments when I was probably more than any other time, when I was challenged, when I was unhappy, nervous, maybe even depressed about something that was happening in my life at that time. When I look back now and I fast forward past that event and I see where God placed me after that, I recognized God was using that time to shape me, mold me, prepare me for what he had in store for me next. And so when I came to that realization finally, after looking back at all the times in my life that he was faithful to follow that same pattern, I recognized that when I'm in that, I don't have to like it. I don't have to love the situation that I'm in, but I find joy and peace in knowing that just like all the other times before, God's going to use this to teach me something, to bring me out of it prepared for whatever he has in store for me next. So I just have to be in that moment, be in every relationship, be in every challenge and step along the way that's going to be bear fruit on the other side of it. And that, going back in my life, is when I retired early after 25 years in public education to open up a charter school. I took a little bit of a hit on my pension, right? Because I was so young. I was only 47 at the time. I'd been a superintendent. I'd been a principal for over 15 years. And that charter school situation didn't end up being what I had kind of hoped it would be. But now couldn't go back because I had already stepped away from public, was already collecting a pension. I I couldn't go on with the charter. It was open and it's thriving, and I was happy to hand it off to someone else. But God led me to two opportunities coming out of that. I got into Christian education, which I'd been involved in ever since. And now I'm doing work for multiple organizations in Christian education, consulting and coaching. And it got me involved in the private college and career counseling, which has also now blossomed and grown. And then when you put the two of those worlds together around and connect the military support to it, like I'm right where God has always intended for me to be. But if I look back and I say, gosh, if I changed that, or if I did this differently, or if I changed, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I think that's where, if people want to take a lesson out of our conversation today, Tara, it would be like, you can't look back on anything with regret. Any decision that you've made, any experience that you've had, no matter how difficult and painful it is, you are where you are right now because it's where God wants you to be. So look, seek him and say, what is it you want me to learn right now, to do right now? Who is it you want me to impact right now? And when we begin to kind of bring God into the everyday presence of everything that we do, everything changes for the better.
Oh my gosh, so much wisdom there. You talked about a debilitating condition which so many people are facing right now, and that's anxiety and depression. And, when we think about anxiety, it's a worrying of the future. When we think about depression, it's ruminating of past events, neither of which you can change at all, neither of which benefits you by thinking about them, right? But you kept mentioning this word now. And, the powerful thing, when you anchor yourself to the present, to the now, you don't think about the future. You don't worry about it. You don't think about the past and have regret, as you say, right? You're anchored in the present. And that's a mindset that can be achieved through gratitude.
Yes.
And as you know, as I've talked about gratitude, for me, it's a direct conduit, anchor, not only to the present, but to the higher power, to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that when you do this as a lifestyle, it does relieve anxiety and depression long term. So what we're talking about is really relieving us of the worry, the regret of life, because as you say, everything that will happen will happen. Mm-hmm. What you have control of is right now. We can't live in the past. We can't have regret. It's not serving us anyway, right? Mm-hmm. But it's to have the faith that we're stepping into the person that God has created us to be for the purpose he has designed us for. So powerful.
Right on. Yeah, I think that, and that's why I also mentioned the people that you're with right now.
Yeah.
Because I think that more than anything else has been I've always been a people person.
Yep.
I've always been very much an extrovert. I've always, in fact, it annoys my wife to no end at times that I just can just walk up to somebody that I don't know, start a conversation. And but again, it's a gift, right? It's a blessing God's given me for a purpose. And I found that the more that I connect with people, like I actually know somebody who does that. And then I can put those people together as a connection. And I have been blessed in the work that I've done since we moved to North Carolina 3.5 years ago, to meet the people that have made introductions for me that have led me to so many of the opportunities in the work that I'm doing right now. And then you begin to establish yourself as someone who, high character, yep. Right? Reputation. You do what you say you're going to do. You're fair. You're attentive. That's enough for people to start passing your name on to others and saying, if you would need somebody to talk to about that, or if you're struggling in that area, I've got somebody I want to recommend to you. And as I look at my contact list continuing to grow, my network list continuing to grow, I see it as such an incredible blessing. And every one of them, I'll circle back and go back to, where did this chain begin? And I'll never forget, like almost all of these things that I'm doing now tie back to a conversation I had after leading a Bible study. It was just a small group study. I had a conversation with one person in that group. As a result of that conversation, he said, there's someone I need to introduce you to. That person has made probably about 12 introductions for me. And I go all the way back and I say, it's because I took the time to connect with that person that God put in front of me. And God has since blessed that beyond anything that I could have ever contrived or, tried to force to happen. And that, again, it's where that trust comes in. If God's put this person in my path, there's got to be a reason for it. So I can ignore it, make all kinds of excuses why not to make that connection. But then I also have to accept the consequence that perhaps there was some blessing in that I'm now not going to see because I wasn't faithful to act upon it.
I love that. You mentioned something that I talk about, which I believe is one of a very powerful way to build confidence that really nobody talks about. And that is to be a person of your word. Being a person of your word, not just keeping your word to others, but also keeping word to yourself as well. Keeping your commitments, honoring your commitments, doing what you say you're going to do. It not only builds confidence, but it builds a sense of trust within other people. So that when you meet these new people, right, as you're describing, because you're a super connector just like me, it's another reason we get along, right?
That's all right.
It's like, you don't meet a lot of super connectors, but you're definitely one of them.
Thanks.
Your word builds on itself like a snowball. So when you introduce somebody, it's Dan's the greatest because, gosh, he helped me back when this and that. And you're just known as a person of your word. It really builds your reputation, as you go through life and you meet people that can grow your brand, your business, help you in some kind of a way.
Yeah.
It all starts from that point of self, that origin point of being a leader of one.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Well, character's everything, Tara. I mean, there's nothing that matters more.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I say this when I do training for parents. I do a lot of work with troubled adolescent teens through a program that I'm working with, and I'm working with the boys and their parents. And again, all my work with adolescents, just stressing that point that says, look, you can say anything, and we as adults are guilty of this, right? We can say anything to kids, but kids are watching. They're always watching more than they're listening, right? And this goes for parenting. This goes for teachers. This goes for, any kind of mentoring situation. It takes a long time to build the trust and a long time to build the confidence that you are who you say you are. And it only takes one time to throw it away. And so, and particularly when you're in a faith-based environment, right? Because it's so easy. I think so many people that you meet that have a distaste for the Christian faith, it's because they saw someone who who says a lot of things contradict that in the way that they live, right? Talk about love or whatever, and then see them, bashing someone or insulting someone or talking down about someone and be like, well, you're no different than anybody else. So this faith that you talk about must be a farce, right? So there's a lot of pressure in that, right? Always, having to be perfect. And that's the thing, is we're not called to be perfect. In fact, the title of the book that I'm eventually going to finish, right, is not perfect, just perfect together. And the idea is, if we're not meant to do this life alone, right? And so the idea of having people surround you to hold you accountable, to lift you up, to pick you up when you're falling down, to just share a good word, to just listen, right? We all need that in our lives. And so people want to be around people who invite that into their life. And the only way you invite that into your life is when you are, when you're willing to be transparent, and when you're willing to be vulnerable. And those are characteristics of leaders. I'm actually shocked, I think, because it's who I am to my core, but I'm shocked at how many leaders struggle with that. They struggle with that ability to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to get connected or close because of, again, some fear of what that might lead to or what that might mean down the road. I mean, Tara, I did 25 years in public education, and I was a strong Christian through all of that. And I never pushed my faith on anybody. But yet so many times people approached me and said, you must be a Christian. And I mean, once they opened the door, I mean, I certainly can have the conversation, but I would just ask what, and they would say, just something about the way that you speak to people, something about the way you show such grace and patience with your students, just something about the way, something about the way, something about the way. And that just told me even more that character is above all else. It's what shows God's love to others through us. And it's just too easy to destroy that. So more than anything else, to me, if I'm going to be remembered for something one day, it's going to be that. It's going to be a man of character, a man of integrity, who loved well. That's and loved others well. That's more meaningful than any title, any salary, any whatever. It's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And, to your point, there's a lot of talk right now about purpose. What's my purpose? Let me find my purpose. People are questioning that, and I love that. I love that conversation. But I just want to point out, to your point, what you were mentioning is it's a part of all of our purpose, regardless of who you are, to rise up and lift up others,
Right.
to support others, to rise the collective. It's not just about us as individuals, right? It's about the betterment of all mankind. And it starts with us, of course. It starts with a mindset of love, of appreciation for your fellow man, right? But then it's also, it goes into your character and how you want to be remembered, right? Not just after we die, but how we want to be remembered and thought of as we're living. What is that living legacy that we can create? And it's always going to be in service to others. It's never in a disservice to humanity. That's not a part of anyone's purpose. So I think, lots of wisdom there, Dan, that you said. Any final last words that you have?
Well, I think when we talk about legacy, I mean, there's a great song. I'm pretty sure it's Casting Crowns that sings it, but they have this line in the song about legacy, right? It says, I don't want to leave a legacy. I don't care if they remember me, only Jesus. And in my mind, that's why I'm here, right? That's why I'm here on earth. That's why I've been given the people to interact with, is to point them to Jesus. And that may be in my words. You've heard me say this at the meetings before, and I don't know who it's originally attributed to. I heard it was Augustine. It may be or maybe not, but my purpose is to preach the gospel, and when necessary, to use words. I just, for me, it's always got to be about, I'm incredibly blessed to have the woman that has been my partner for all these years, and 6 amazing adult children that are all raising their children in the ways of the Lord. And, I'm one of 7 children. My parents taught us that. It's all well and good, but I don't want people in the end of my life saying, he was a a good man, and not knowing why. To me, it has to be about, because I'm a follower of Christ, and because of that, I live out my life in a certain way, other-centered, focused on doing good and being truthful and having character and all that. So for me, it's those things are all important, but there's only one reason why it's important, and it's because of who it points to. And that's my ground zero. That's what everything comes down to. And I just pray that God continues to use me for every day that I still have breath in my lungs, that's what he'll continue to use me for.
I love that. Such powerful words of wisdom. Dan, where can everybody get a hold of you? Because I'm sure everyone will need to reach out to you after this episode airs. So let us know the best places to contact you at.
Well, thank you. My website's probably the simplest. It's dansimonsolutions.com. There's a contact me place there. You can also email me at dan@dansimonsolutions.com. I think that's right. I may have to double check that to make sure I got the email right. But I'm happy. Look, if in my life, I know if someone reaches out to me, it's because God's sending them to me for a purpose. So I love having opportunities to just listen to people. And you know what, Tara, for me, I love hearing. I've just done this in the last month. People have reached out to me, and then I have proceeded to set them up and to communicate with someone else. And then do I see that as a loss of, business per se? I don't care. It's not what it's about for me. It's about that opportunity where God puts someone in my life to send them to the place where they're going to get what they need. And that's all I want to do. So dansimonsolutions.com, lots of different opportunities to what I may be able to do to serve. And if not, it will be an honor and a pleasure just to have a conversation and just to pray over and speak encouragement and speak life into someone else.
I love that. I often refer to myself as God's delivery driver because I feel like I'm just constantly being brought people into my life and introducing them to other people, right?
Yes.
So we're both super connectors and God's delivery drivers. I love that. Dan, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. And thank you for everyone who tuned into this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. Guys, we are growing. Holy cow. We are reaching so many countries. It is amazing. I continue to be blessed by the reach of this show. We are officially a global show, and we couldn't have done that without you. So please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, follow, and leave a review so we can keep this trajectory going. Guys, we will see you on the next episode. Take care. And that's a wrap for this episode of Grasp Confidence. Thank you for joining me today and investing in yourself. Remember, building confidence is an ongoing journey, and each step you take brings you closer to the empowered, fearless version of yourself that you were born to be. Don't forget to visit my website, follow me on social media, and purchase my book, which is available on Amazon. Thank you for listening. We will see you on the next episode. Stay confident.